They laughed, toasted, and posed for pictures, while I stood alone in my empty restaurant, staring at the message my dad just sent. "We couldn't make it, Emma. Your brother's promotion ran late." That night, my heart shattered, but my reply to him? That single text changed everything. It was the start of a revenge they'd never see coming. The message came in just as I was wiping down the last table. My restaurant, my dream, still smelled like roasted garlic, fresh bread, and hope. The grand opening was over. The guests had left. My staff was cleaning up, their laughter echoing through the dining hall that I had once only seen in sketches and scribbles. My phone buzzed. It was from Dad. "Greater than, we drove past your restaurant. Looks nice from the outside. Shame we couldn't make it tonight, your brother's promotion dinner ran late." For a moment, I just stared at the screen. My hands froze, the cleaning rag dripping onto the tile. I had worked for years for this day, the grand opening of Emma's Table, the restaurant I built from nothing, the one that was supposed to make my family proud. And they skipped it. I typed back slowly, each word cutting through my chest as I wrote it. "Greater than, don't worry, Dad. You'll be hearing a lot about the restaurant soon enough." I hit send and smiled, not the happy kind. The kind you smile when you know something inside you just broke, but what's about to come next will make everyone regret ever underestimating you. What they didn't know was that tonight, while they were toasting my brother's promotion, I had already made a call that would change everything for them. But let's go back. You need to understand how it all began. When I was little, I spent most of my time in the kitchen with my grandmother. She'd let me stir the soup, roll the dough, and tell me stories about people who turned their pain into something beautiful. "Cooking," she used to say, "is how you love people, even when they don't love you back." I didn't know then that those words would become the foundation of my life. Growing up, my family wasn't poor, but they acted like love had to be earned with trophies and titles. My older brother, Daniel, was the golden child, straight A's, captain of the football team, always the one Mom and Dad bragged about. I was the quiet one, the kitchen girl, the one who helped clean up after everyone else's celebrations. But I didn't mind. I had a dream, to open my own restaurant one day. To create a place where people felt at home, where every meal tasted like comfort and care. After college, while Daniel got a fancy job in a bank, I worked in diners, food trucks, and catering companies. I saved every penny, wrote menus on napkins, and collected recipes like treasures. I even worked double shifts just to pay for cooking classes at night. Still, no one believed in me. I remember one dinner. I was so excited to tell my family that I'd finally found a space for my restaurant. A small building downtown, old but full of character. I showed them pictures, plans, even the business license I'd applied for. Dad looked up from his newspaper and said, "Emma, restaurants fail every day. Maybe you should think of something more stable. You're not a risk taker." Daniel chuckled. "Yeah, maybe start with a food blog first." Mom just smiled weakly. "We just don't want you to be disappointed, dear." That night, I cried in my car for hours. But then I looked at the sign I'd scribbled in my notebook, Emma's Table, and promised myself that one day, they'd eat those words. The first few months were brutal. Construction delays, money problems, sleepless nights. I almost gave up. But I had one loyal person in my corner, my best friend, Lily. She helped me paint walls, test recipes, even stood outside in the cold handing out flyers. We didn't have much, but we had heart. Slowly, things started coming together. The walls turned from bare plaster to warm cream. I found the perfect tables, secondhand, but full of charm. And the first time I cooked in that kitchen, I cried. I could finally see my dream taking shape. When I sent out the grand opening invites, I made sure to hand-deliver one to my parents' house. Dad took it, glanced at it, and said, "We'll see if we can make it." Mom smiled politely, the same way she did when I told her about every milestone, like she was humoring me. Daniel didn't even look up from his phone. "Oh, that's the same day as my promotion party," he said casually. "We'll have to juggle." I laughed, pretending it didn't sting. "Well, you guys can come after if you want. We'll still be open." But I should have known better. The night of the grand opening was everything I'd dreamed of, almost. The restaurant was glowing with light and laughter. The air was filled with the smell of rosemary chicken, buttered rolls, and my grandmother's signature stew. Guests smiled, clapped, and took photos. Some even asked to meet the chef. I was proud, so proud. But every time someone asked, "Where's your family?" They must be so proud. My stomach twisted. I'd smile and say, "Oh, they're just running late." They never came. Not my dad. Not my mom. Not even Daniel. I waited. I kept glancing at the door, hoping they'd show up, maybe even with flowers or an apology. But nothing. Later that night, one of my waiters came up to me, phone in hand. "Hey, Miss Emma, your brother's party is trending on social media, looks wild." He turned the phone to show me a picture of my family, all dressed up, laughing, holding champagne glasses, celebrating Daniel's promotion. I froze. My world spun. My throat felt dry. They didn't just skip my dream, they celebrated someone else instead. That was the moment I decided something inside me had to change. I went back to the kitchen, picked up my phone, and texted Dad. Greater than, "Don't worry, Dad. You'll be hearing a lot about the restaurant soon enough." He probably thought it was just a simple message. But it wasn't. Because at that very moment, I was already planning something they would never forget. Something that would make them wish they had shown up that night. And the first step started with one unexpected visitor who walked through the door just as I put my phone down. The visitor who would change everything. The doorbell chimed softly, its sound cutting through the silence that had settled after the guests left. I turned toward it, expecting one of my staff to return for a forgotten bag. But instead, a tall man in a dark blue suit stepped in. His hair was silver at the edges, and his sharp eyes scanned the room like he'd walked into a secret. "Sorry, we're closed," I said automatically, wiping my hands on my apron. He smiled slightly. "I'm not here to eat. I'm here to talk about your restaurant." Something about the way he said it made me stop. "Do I know you?" He shook his head. "Not yet. Name's Mr. Carter. I was at the opening earlier, sat near the corner table." "You probably didn't notice me." I blinked. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize." "No need to apologize," he interrupted calmly. "I wanted to stay low-key. I like observing before I invest." "Invest?" I repeated. He nodded, looking around the dining hall with admiration. "You've got something rare here, Emma. Heart. Atmosphere. Food that feels like it came from the soul. I've been to hundreds of restaurants, but yours," he smiled, "it's special." For a second, I just stood there, stunned. All the disappointment, the heartbreak, the loneliness from that night, it suddenly clashed with this one unexpected moment of hope. He continued, "I own several restaurant groups. I'd like to discuss partnering with you. If you're open to it." Partnering. The word hit me like lightning. After years of people doubting me, someone was offering to help me grow. I invited him to sit. We talked for hours, about the menu, the concept, the story behind Emma's table. He listened carefully, nodding often, occasionally asking questions about my background and family. When I mentioned that my family didn't show up for the opening, he frowned. "That's their loss," he said quietly. "Family doesn't always see the vision until it's shining too bright to ignore." I smiled sadly. "Yeah, I guess so." He leaned back. "Let's make them see it, then." That line stuck in my mind long after he left. The next few weeks were a blur of meetings, menus, and miracles. Mr. Carter introduced me to people I'd only dreamed of meeting: food critics, influencers, and local investors. Suddenly, Emma's table was in newspapers and on food blogs. One article even called it, "the heart of the city." Every time I read those words, I thought of Dad's message, "Looks nice from the outside." Well, now the whole world could see what was on the inside. And the best part? I didn't tell my family anything. Not a single word. Then, one Saturday morning, about a month later, I woke up to my phone buzzing like crazy. I groaned, grabbed it, and nearly dropped it when I saw the notification. Emma's table featured on national television, the rising star chef who beat the odds. There was my face, my kitchen, my story. I watched the segment, tears in my eyes, as the reporter said, "Emma Thompson turned her dream into a reality, despite having no support from her family. Now, her restaurant is the talk of the town." The comments section exploded with love and praise. People wrote things like, "You're an inspiration," and "This is what chasing your dream looks like." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All I could think was, finally. Finally, they'd have to see me. And they did. That evening, my phone rang. It was Dad. Emma? His voice sounded cautious, unsure. We just saw the news. Congratulations. Thanks, I said flatly, wiping my hands on my apron. We're proud of you, he added. Now? I asked quietly. You're proud now? There was a pause. Emma, come on, don't be like that. You know how much we love you. I bit my lip. Love me enough to skip the biggest night of my life? He sighed. Your brother's party was important too. We couldn't just. Right, I cut in. His job title mattered more than my dream. Emma. I hung up. I didn't cry this time. I didn't scream. I just looked around my restaurant, the one they didn't believe in, and smiled. Because I didn't need their approval anymore. Still, something in me whispered that this wasn't over. That message I sent Dad weeks ago, it was time to make good on it. And fate seemed to agree. 2 days later, I got a call from Mr. Carter. Emma, he said, his tone lighter than usual, I just got an offer from a major event company. They want to host a private dinner here next weekend, for a corporate celebration. That's great, I said. He chuckled. You might want to hear who it's for. When he told me the company's name, my heart stopped. It was my brother's, the one he worked for. The same one that had thrown his big promotion party, the night my family skipped my grand opening. I laughed out loud, disbelief washing over me. You're serious? Completely. They don't even know I'm involved. They requested the restaurant because they saw it on TV. I couldn't help it. I laughed until I cried. Then let's give them a night to remember. Spoken like a true chef, he said. I had 1 week to prepare. And as I stood in the center of Emma's table that night, watching the lights shimmer off the clean glass and polished floors, I whispered to myself, this is where they'll see me. This is where they'll regret everything. What I didn't know then was that the dinner would unfold in a way I could never have predicted. Because sometimes, revenge doesn't go exactly as planned. The big night arrived. The restaurant gleamed brighter than ever. Every table had fresh flowers, every dish was prepped to perfection, and every staff member knew this night had to be flawless. Lily and I double-checked everything, from the wine glasses to the dessert plates. My heart raced, not from nerves this time, but from anticipation. At 7 p.m. sharp, the guests began to arrive. A sea of suits and dresses filled the room, laughter echoing as music played softly in the background. And then I saw them. My parents, my brother, his wife, all walking in together. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. They didn't notice me right away. They were too busy taking pictures, complimenting the decor, laughing like they owned the place. When Daniel finally looked up and saw me, his smile faltered. Emma? I smiled sweetly. Welcome to Emma's table. Mom's jaw dropped. This is your restaurant? Dad blinked, visibly stunned. We had no idea. Really? I said, tilting my head. You must have missed the TV segment. They stood there awkwardly, clearly embarrassed. Daniel cleared his throat. Well, this is a surprise. Oh, it's full of surprises tonight, I replied. They were seated with the rest of Daniel's co-workers, who were already raving about the food and the ambiance. Everyone was impressed. Except my family, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. As the night went on, the atmosphere buzzed with joy. Guests laughed, clinked glasses, and complimented every dish. It was the most perfect event I'd ever hosted. Then came the speech. Daniel's boss stood up and tapped his glass. I just want to thank Emma's table for hosting us tonight. This place is incredible. And to think the chef behind it is our very own Daniel's sister, what a talented family. Everyone applauded. My family smiled awkwardly, caught between pride and shame. I took the microphone, smiling graciously. Thank you. It's been a journey, years of hard work, ups and downs. I opened this restaurant with one dream, to make people feel loved, even when the people closest to me couldn't see my worth. The room went silent. I could feel my parents' eyes on me. I continued softly, some people only show up when success does. But the real ones? They're there when you're still sweeping the floors of your dream. Lily squeezed my shoulder from behind. The crowd clapped, moved by the words. But my family, they couldn't even meet my eyes. When the applause faded, Daniel's boss raised his glass again. To Emma, proof that dreams don't need permission. Everyone cheered. Everyone, except my family. After the dinner, as the guests began leaving, Dad approached me quietly. Emma, we're sorry. I looked at him, tired but calm. I know you are, Dad. But sorry doesn't erase the rain I stood in alone that night. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. We should have been there. Yes, I said softly. You should have. Then I smiled, just like I did that night of the grand opening. But don't worry, Dad. You've finally heard about the restaurant. And with that, I turned away to greet another guest, leaving them standing there, silent, ashamed, and realizing that they'd lost something far more valuable than just an invitation. Because that night, they didn't just see my success. They saw the woman they once doubted become unstoppable. And that was the real revenge. Life lesson. Never measure your worth by who claps for you. Sometimes, the people who doubt you the most are just waiting for you to prove them wrong. Keep going, even when no one believes in you, because one day, they'll have no choice but to see you shine. And that night, when my family finally sat in my restaurant, tasting the food they once said would never succeed, I didn't need their apology, because success was the sweetest revenge. Heartbreak Fire. If this story gave you chills, make sure to like, comment, dreams never die, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this one. Your support helps these true lessons of karma reach the world. Speech balloon sparkles.